Hey guys, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor at the Bulwark, here with Lauren Egan, who's got her first edition of the
Woo-woo!
opposition. I know. How does that feel? A relief?
It does, yeah.
Okay. Good. First edition of the opposition newsletter. That's Lauren's twice week newsletter on the state of the Democratic Party, and it's, as of now, difficult efforts to regain its footing. Lauren, tell us about this edition. What do you write about?
This edition is about Democrats just trying to figure out how to be themselves on social media and like not be cringe and awkward, which they're really struggling with. They've been, like we saw last week with State of the Union stuff, just like they cannot figure out how to be organic and be themselves and break through this new media environment. And it's showing.
So, okay, the problem they have is there's this new media environment. Trump's very good at it.
Yeah.
MAGA's very good at it. The election was a demonstration of the fact that Democrats have a deficit on it. And as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the party kind of emerged from the election and were like, we're definitely going to try and break through. We're going to get on all these podcasts. We're going to build up our social media networks, might acquire some, but we know we have a problem and we're going to fix it. And
Yeah,
it's been
yeah.
4 months, and have they fixed it?
Absolutely not. Yeah, they definitely came out of the last election and were like, this is bad. We know we are bad at this. This is no longer a problem we can ignore because Republicans have just like dominated this space so much. And when we talk about like how the vibes were in 2024, the vibe election, how Trump and Republicans just have so much more cultural capital than the Democratic Party does right now.
Right.
There is very much a recognition that like you have to play in these spaces. You have to be willing to go into, podcast interviews that maybe might feel like a little bit more uncomfortable, a little bit less scripted, a little bit more unpredictable. You can't stick to your
Your safe
messaging, talking
spaces.
points. Yeah, like you have to be able to like sit there for 2 hours and like have a conversation with someone. They said
Do
they
they
needed
go on
to
these
do that.
podcasts?
No,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, obviously, the big conversation this past week has been about Gavin Newsom and his new podcast, which has gotten a lot of attention, most notably because of the comments he made about trans women playing in youth sports.
Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It is an issue of fairness.
So
it's deeply unfair.
The thing with that is that what I consistently heard from Democratic staffers, even some people that used to work for Gavin Newsom, is that cool, like it's great that he's doing this, but like who's going to subscribe? It's going to be people that are already diehard Democrats, or
Right.
like reporters like us who are just like, like
Junkies.
and like have no life and are going to listen to this.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. I have a life.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sam, it's
Wanna
a
make
Sunday
sure.
afternoon and you're talking to me. So I don't know
It's a
about
job,
that.
but I also have a life. So okay, so that was my issue with the Newsom thing. I actually personally think it's fine and actually probably healthy to build out these networks and try new things. And he booked Charlie Kirk, who is sort of this nauseous MAGA personality, if you don't know him already. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's fine. I think it's fine to talk to
Yeah.
people like that. I think the issue that people in the operative space are getting at, which the people you talk to, is that the end goal here is to open up new audiences for you, right? To like reach new people who otherwise wouldn't consider you. And to do that, you kind of have to go on Charlie Kirk's show. You don't have to invite Charlie Kirk onto your show. Now,
Right.
you might get benefits from having Charlie Kirk on your show in that Charlie Kirk thinks you're more of a human and he has more of a relationship with you and he's less likely to malign you when he talks about you, and you can he'll play clips of you and
Maybe
stuff like
though,
that.
like I don't know. Like he's got his own shtick that he's probably gonna stick to still. I don't know if that's
Right. I just think there's something to the idea that like if you meet someone on a one-on-one basis, if you have a conversation with them, right, you're like less likely to be like, he's an asshole, he's a communist or whatever. But that's not what the point is. The point has always been open up new spaces to the Democratic Party, and that requires you to go on Theo Von, Joe Rogan. Now they might not invite you, right?
I think it's about going
you
to apolitical places, right, where people aren't coming there initially for politics, but that sometimes can like
so why don't
be
they just
political
do that?
adjacent. I think there's still a deep sense of just fear, and Democrats as like the party as a whole, it's just so ingrained in them to be so cautious, so risk averse to sit there in like a conference room and, you know, do a cost benefit analysis on like every decision that they make, instead of just having sort of like a little bit of thicker skin or like the gut for being like, okay, we're going to do this because we have to. It might not go well. It might be really uncomfortable. We might like say some weird shit at first, but like we got to do it and handle whatever blowback we might get, and just be a little bit more willing to like put yourself out there.
Yeah. Well, there was an interview that Tim Walz, Minnesota Governor, former VP candidate, gave to our old colleagues at Politico, where he said this. He was like, we were just too bubble wrapped. And I thought that was kind of an interesting confession. First of all, the consensus was he was the safe choice pick. But secondarily, there was like a little bit of questioning in the moment about whether they're too bubble wrapped. And they insisted that they were not, them being the Harris campaign.
Right. They said, you know, we're doing Call Her Daddy. Like, to be fair to them, they did do some things, but the whole point is like, you can't do one interview on one podcast and be like, oh, we checked the box. Like, this is a thing you have to consistently do over and over every.
So you buy
day.
this idea that you have to be ubiquitous in today's politics.
Totally.
You buy
and I think a lot of the Democrats I talk to agree with that. Like, they all agree that like, it's not just I think there's totally a sense that like, okay, we did our TikTok video for the week. Like, we're good. You know, we don't need to deal with this again until next week. And it's like, no, you've got to be constant.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, they had that whole the viral. They went with the choose your fighter theme for the TikTok videos, Democratic female lawmakers this week. And it was widely mocked. And I think that gets to your point, which is that when it's apparent that you're checking off a box and being like, oh, this viral theme, we got to do that. Then it becomes, and I don't know. And this is a lot of us being like sort of theater critics, right? Like, what do we know? But maybe
I'm sure that speaks to someone, but yeah, it was like widely.
Well, I guess my didn't speak to me personally, but my point is that Democrats get encouraged to try a lot of things and do new things and experiment more, and then when they do, they also then get criticized instantaneously for looking cringy and trying too hard, right? And so it's like a little bit hard to find. And
then they kind of retreat, though, you know, like then
it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, and so like a lot of the strategists I talk to are like, it is a vicious cycle. You know, they feel like they're held to sort of a bit more of an unfair standard. But they're like, we kind of just have to keep going. Like, when I talk to people after that, that TikTok, they're all like, I really hope that they don't wait like another week to do something else. The whole point is like muscle through, keep putting shit out there. And eventually like you'll feel more comfortable and not come across as like so try hard, you know, like it's just
the
like,
irony is that AOC was on that silly TikTok.
Right.
And she's the one.
She's actually good at this stuff.
Yeah. And the stuff she does that's good, though, is like her doing some Instagram live thing where she's cooking like. Or like
Twitch.
You know, yeah.
Like she's good on Twitch because like, well, she's like an actual gamer. So like, it doesn't feel like forced when she's on there. Cause you're like, oh, you like, I don't really game, but like, you're like, oh, you know this stuff. And like, it shows and like, this feels real. I think that's a part of it. Like the authenticity stuff.
Okay. So that gets me to this. And this is my theory of the case. And tell me if I'm wrong, but like authenticity, right? Like 99% of these people in the Democratic Party are inauthentic on these platforms because they're older, they're just unfamiliar with them. And so anytime you put them on there, it's going to feel inauthentic. And in fact, you should just probably like, you know, let them do their own thing and like tape them doing it and then post it. Like whatever. They can read their like nonfiction books and you can talk about it with them and that'll probably feel more real. Trump, by contrast, the most authentic version of Trump is being on TV and in the spotlight at all times and being a constant. And the most authentic version of JD Vance is being a troll, an online troll. Like that's who he is. This is who Donald Trump is. And so naturally, they feel more seamless and authentic in these forms because this is who they are. And so they have an advantage. That's my theory of the case.
I don't think that that's wrong. And then when you talk to strategists on the Dem side, when you talk to people in the party, like mostly off the record, they'll be like, yeah, we do need younger leadership. Like we need younger people to run for office. Like,
sure. But Trump's not young. Trump's old.
No, but he grew up in front of the camera. Like he's
an animal.
Like it's not like part of it is an age thing, but like, I don't know if Chuck Schumer had been on TikTok for forever and like clearly like played on the, you know, like played in these apps, then like maybe it would feel real, but it doesn't. It's just kind of like,
but see, like Chuck Schumer has spent his life in front of cameras too, but he's not
a different
like Trump.
kind of camera.
He's a different beast. Yeah. And
it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah. If I were Chuck, I would just like, you know, I know he played the accordion when he was young, but like do stuff that's very Chuck Schumer-y and like just like be Chuck, right? Like just don't try to like do, you know.
That's the thing. It's like,
memes.
just don't, right. It's almost like, again, it's so try hard to the point where it just feels, you can't.
Okay, I should be clear. I know Chuck Schumer played the accordion when he was young because he once told me that his childhood accordion instructor was named Sam Stein, and we bonded over that. And then he showed me. I'm so glad
you guys have that.
It was a very weird interview that we conducted.
Yeah. Like, wait, what instrument does Tim Kaine play? Because that was an example. What does he play? Tim Kaine plays some instrument, and someone did bring that up. Like, oh, when he's just like being himself and playing.
Like Mark Warner, for instance, made a nasty tuna melt once on video, and it went viral. But like, that's do shit like that. That's
if you're if you're a dad and you have dad humor, just lean into that. Like that will be like, that's fine. If that's you.
That's my life.
I know. I constantly have to reject your edits when you put dad jokes into my copy.
No, that's not true. You always accept them and you love them. All right. So what's the upshot here? Are they going to figure it out? Do they need to figure out?
Well, they have to figure it out. Like, this is the way the world is moving. This is how like politics is going. Like they have to figure it out. Will they figure it out, and on what timeline? I don't know. I think they will eventually, but we're working on a timeline.
And there's always the question of, well, could they build out their own infrastructure? And I've seen nothing. I don't know if you've seen anything about like Democrat donors investing money in Democratic media ventures. Now, maybe it will happen, but it's been, you know.
I think there's still a lot of conversation about that and a lot of anxiety about we need to do this. But again, going back to our earlier point, I think some of that energy and anxiety is a bit misplaced. Like, sure, you can have a democratic version of whatever, but
Twitter,
the whole point,
blue sky.
Yeah.
You can have blue sky, but you're just talking to yourselves there, basically.
Well, again, it's still missing the point that you like the apolitical spaces are what matters, and you can't build that. You have to go there. If you build it, it's not apolitical, and you have to go where some of these swing voters are. If you want to just have more cultural currency, you have to get out of these inherently political bubbles.
It's just straight politics, man. If you got to reach people who aren't already converted. All right. Well, it's a great piece. It's great first edition for the newsletter. I'm so excited for it. I'm excited to launch this thing. I encourage people to sign up for it. I encourage people to sign up for our YouTube page where we're going to do supplementary discussions like this and have you on all the time and break down news. Lauren, thanks so much for writing it. Appreciate talking about it, and we'll be in touch.
Hey, YouTube fam. If you want to support the Bulwark, the best way to do it is by becoming a YouTube Bulwark Plus member. The Bulwark is truly independent. We have no corporate overlords. We're not settling any dumb lawsuits with Trump. By joining, you help support our work, and you can get a bunch of perks right here on this platform. Ad-free content, bonus videos, live streams, and some emojis of me, which I guess some people want. So come join, come hang out, become a Bulwark YouTube Plus member, and I'll be seeing you in the comments. So behave.